Hey everyone, it's another week and another update on the Union Pacific Railroad Evanston subdivision. Welcome so much to the layout as we review some pretty important additions to the layout. Actually worked on scenery. I had a great week. I had some very good friends visiting from Atlanta. They helped me with the layout, and then we also participated in an operating session weekend on some Chicago area layout. So I had a great week, got a lot of construction done, and had some fun. Here's Mark Bridgewater working on the layout, and also Scott Chatfield. Both of them I met in Georgia. And they were in town for the rail group operating weekend. And so they came early on Wednesday and helped me here. Mark really got into things there quite a bit. But they were nice enough to come early on Wednesday. And we spent all day Thursday and most of Friday working on the layout. Now, what we were looking for in doing this scenery is the area at Curvo up to Wahsatch grade. Now here you can see on the way up to the Wahsatch grade, you do have some pretty cool rock formations. This is at the Taggart tunnels, which we will be including. And then once you get to Echo, it transitions from the Weber Canyon to the Echo Canyon, and you get a little bit different color rock work. So we are going to have all kinds of rock work like this from the Taggart Mountains to Echo and up through Emory. And then once you get closer to the summit, you have more of a topography such as this. You have more of a rolling hills type of landscape. So on the landscape that we were working on last couple days this week, on Thursday and Friday, was Curvo, which you can see right here. Again, you can see the landscape is more of a rolling hills type of topography compared to the rock work of the Weber Canyon and the Echo Canyon. This is a big boy going through, I think, in 2019. So what we were shooting for is more of the rolling hills type of look. All right, so the first thing that we started to do is cut a bunch of cardboard strips. First of all, I did it from the backdrop to the fascia. So those are all one continuous strips of cardboard. So we kind of drew an outline on the backdrop on where we wanted these rolling hills to go, and then we cut the cardboard strips. We hot glued them to the backdrop and then ran it under the roadbed, then to the fascia. Now in some cases we went over the roadbed if there was a tunnel, and then here you can kind of see it goes under the roadbed and then all the way to the fascia. This is kind of a really cool look here. A little bit on that in just a second. But as you can see, we were kind of shooting for some rolling hills look. So there aren't going to be any rock molds here. It's just going to be some more smooth hills. That's the Wahsatch, the final part of the Wahsatch grade, as it turns out. Now, if you notice, we mainly just have the strips, I guess you could call them the vertical strips from the backdrop to the fascia at this point. And then now we transition to a few more horizontal pieces. And you'll notice in this particular case, we are not doing as many horizontal pieces, and our vertical pieces are spread further apart. We're kind of trying a different approach this time, and we're using a rosin paper to cover it instead of plaster gauze. So with the rosin paper, you don't need to have the cardboard strips as close together. So we were kind of shooting for 8 inches. When you do the plaster gauze, it's more like 4 inches or less. This is all attached using hot glue guns. We only had 2, so unfortunately Mark and Scott got to do all the work while I basically just kind of supervised and made sure I approved of everything they were doing. I really appreciated their work. Scott is a professional model builder. He works for some company. I don't know what the name of the company is, but he basically works for a company that makes model railroads. And then Mark Bridgewater has lots of experience doing mountains, so he really was very helpful. Both of them were very helpful. Now this particular scene here is really cool, where you have the mountains and then 2 fills and then another mountain. Now the philosophy that we were following, and as I said, Mark is really good at this, is to not have it be a case where you have the track put in place and then you build the mountains around where the tracks are. Instead, you kind of figure out or visualize where the mountain is and then how the track would fit in the mountain. So the mountains come first, the landscape comes first, and then the railroad engineers, civil engineers, figure out a way to get the railroad through the mountains. So here, this is a really cool scene here where you have 2 hills. There's a tunnel through the hill on the left and 1 tunnel on the right. So you have them digging out. There's a cut here also. They're digging out on the 2 hills, and then in between they use that dirt for fills. So you have a transition from the hill and then a fill and then another hill or mountain, however you want to look at it. This is what the whole peninsula kind of looks like from a distance. I definitely wanted to have this be the first one. This is definitely going to be a very key part of the layout. Now here is the rosin paper. Rosin paper is what they use in construction. If they put in a finished flooring and they still have some work to do, they'll put this paper on the floor so that it doesn't the flooring doesn't get scuffed up by people walking on it. So it's fairly thick. But what we basically did, this it's very inexpensive. I got like a 100-foot roll, 3 feet wide by 100 feet for $14, which would be more than enough to do this peninsula and maybe even the whole layout. But basically, we just cut sheets. We did have a break in there. We were able to. We worked on Thursday, and then most of Friday, and then we kind of took a breather and did some operating on some layouts. So that was a lot of fun. We operated on 3 layouts, 1 Friday night, and then 2 on Saturday. So we really had a lot of fun operating on different layouts throughout the area. Some very nice layouts, and got some ideas on operating and how we want my layout to operate as compared to what they're doing. There's a lot of the layouts in the Chicago area are into the track warrants and way cars and so forth. So I'm not going to be doing quite what we saw, but it was still a very fun experience, and learned a lot. Appreciated the skill put into it and the planning put into the layouts, and had a lot of fun. All right, now this is where we left things. And we have most of the paper in between Wahsatch and then almost to the very end of the peninsula. Now you notice that some places, if the paper didn't quite meet exactly with the roadbed and the fascia, we use masking tape to kind of join the 2 together. Now what we're going to do, once I get all the paper on, then I'm going to paint it with white glue. And again, I've never done this method before, but I guess the white glue soaks into the paper and kind of becomes part of the paper and becomes a shell of some sort and gives it some strength. And definitely won't be as strong as plaster, but it definitely is a lot easier to work with. If I don't have to put any plaster on this, that would be awesome. I have a feeling I will need to still put some plaster in, but for where the tunnel portals are and different areas where there's some cuts, I may want to put some plaster and do some texturing of that. But we'll see. I'm going to try and finish adding the paper. Here again, you can see the two fills. It goes from a hill that they dug out, and then a fill between the hills, and then the second hill. Definitely, this is going to be great. See, then there's going to be culverts. Then you kind of have idea that if it rained, the water would kind of wash down. So it would come down here, the water would wash down. There'd be a culvert there, continue to wash down, and then another culvert. So again, we kind of think, okay, the landscape is there first. How would everything flow? And then how would the engineers put the railroad through that landscape? So it's going to be pretty cool. One thing I'm definitely going to do is I'm going to put some maintenance roads. So I may do a little adjusting here. Might make these hills a little bit lower because I want to make sure that there's a maintenance road that goes over the top. I think right now there maybe just a little steep for a maintenance road. Here you can see the look of the maintenance road and where it goes. This is at Curvo. So I want to have a maintenance road basically go all through here along the mountains. And so I'm going to see how that can all fit together. So, and then this also kind of came out to two different scenes. So you have a scene here, and then you have a cut. This is on the very end of the peninsula. And then on the other side, you have yet another scene. And then here's kind of this is the, again, I might make that a little bit lower. So we have a scene here at Curvo. Now, one thing I noticed is that I couldn't see the tunnel portal, so I cut that little piece there. I'm going to push it down a little bit. So when you're standing here, you can see that culvert. The culvert in the back, you won't be able to see. It's just not going to work out to see it, at least not from this particular vantage point. You can see it if you stand all the way back at Emory. So again, it's going to go from a little cut there to a hill, a fill. Here's the landscape that I already kind of worked on at this point. So you have a fill here up to the bridge, and then it goes across a bridge, and then you have, of course, cuts through the tunnels. We worked on this last February when Mark was here. You can see this is one spot you can actually see the other tunnel portal way back there in the distance. And of course you will be able to see it for photography if we hang the camera over. So this is going to be a pretty cool scene. I think it's going to look pretty good. So you have a scene there. And then this will be another scene. Notice how both the curves are pretty broad. There's a sharp curve inside the tunnel. And then this will be the third scene. And again, the curve is a lot more broad again. So I was really happy to see that my design idea of having the sharp curve inside the tunnel and then two more broad curves on either side. This is real. I really like this. this view of the two lines. But I think that's working out pretty good. You have the curves are not sharp at all on either side of the tunnel. Looks very, I think, prototypical. And you do have the one right there. You can see how sharp it is inside. The one that's exposed all the way around is like 48, almost 50 inches in radius, so it still looks very good. But that's kind of where we stand right now. All right, so once we got that all done, I did take some time to clean the track and see how it looked with trains running through. So I've been very, very pleased with the way everything looks. This is just a manifest train coming through. I think that cut looks really good there. I might widen that cut because I think the maintenance road might have to go through there. So I'm going to see if I can widen at least one side of it. And then it continues up the last part of the Wahsatch grade. This definitely looks cool with both trains. The modern main line, which is the one on the right, has a lower grade of only 1%. The original main line on the left has a grade up to 1.7%. So they use the modern main line for uphill trains and the original main line for downhill trains. That definitely is a pretty cool look right there. This is going to be a great scene. And what's kind of nice is that when you first walk into the basements, it's going to be one of the first things you see. So that will definitely, I think, be a signature scene of the layout. And I really think this will be too. This definitely looks like the mountains were here first, and the railroad civil engineers came in and figured out how to get the railroad line through. And then we come here to Curvo. And I think that's gonna look pretty close to what you saw on the prototype video of the big boy going through this area of Curvo. Again, you have the mountains, and then where they dug out for the track at Curvo, and then the fill. There you can see both tunnel portals. This is definitely hanging the foam over the layout. And here you can see a train way in the distance. That is the Wahsatch control point that it's going through here pretty soon. I'm really going to be curious on what kind of strength this scenery is going to have after I paint the white glue on there. One thing is that we're going to make sure to use the all-purpose white glue, not the school glue, because we don't want it to be something that's going to dissolve easily. If it's not strong enough, we may use some plaster gauze as an extra layer. But I'm really not too, I think it'll be fine. This area is high enough. We're not going to have anybody really leaning on it. So I'm not too worried about that. May need to put some plaster gauze between the fascia and the road bed, because if somebody leans against the fascia, they might. That's just an 1/8 inch hardboard, so they might flex it a little bit, and so we'll have to see. But I really like how the visible curves are broad curves. That looks pretty good right there. Does not look like a sharp curve at all. And this is a pretty cool shot coming out of the tunnel and crossing at Curvo. This is actually called the flyover, I think, by the UP. That's pretty cool. That's going to be definitely going to be another signature scene. So I think there's going to be 3 signature scenes. That one there at Curvo. This one here I think is going to be definitely some good magazine shots here. And as well as video shots. Have to say too, I like the fact that it's open above the layout. You don't have a valance. I think that would really ruin the look here if we had a valance on top of this. I think the openness, and you can definitely see the ceiling and the floor joists and so forth, but I think with it all painted white and it being very bright in the room, it definitely gives you the feeling that you're outside watching trains. So this next week I'm going to continue putting the paper on. Here we're going to back up here to the control point. When we were visiting there, this was a place where we sat watching the trains come up to the Wahsatch summit. So I definitely wanted to get this to look at least somewhat like that. But anyway, I'm going to try and put paper on the rest of the peninsula here that we did. Maybe make some changes. And one of them, like I said, make sure we can have a maintenance road over the mountains. And want to try and get the maintenance road to come all the way up here to Wahsatch. So we'll be working on that this week. I'm also going to try and get a couple more turnouts done. Still have a little bit of track work to do. I need to add 2 tracks at West Vaco, and then turnout for some track for the Pocatello sub coming off of the main line at Granger. So I'm going to try and take a look at that. I'll probably do a midweek video of some sort, maybe another live video. You can see the progress that I made. Thanks so much for watching. This has been pretty cool update, I think. Definitely some different kinds of progress. Kind of get an idea how the layout's going to look. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Hope you had a great weekend and a great week coming up. Take care, everyone.